Thanks, Mr. Chairman, and likewise, thanks to you for being here today, gentlemen. And in my 20 years serving on the House Armed Services Committee and the Senate Armed Services Committee, we've never had, in my opinion, four finer leaders of our respective branches than the four of you. So thanks for what you do every day. As we look at what we're going to do relative to defense spending, I'm one of those who thinks without question that we need to spend more money, that sequestration, as each of you have said, is going to become a bigger and bigger problem. But I also feel very strongly about the fact that whatever we are able to add to DOD spending, that we've got to offset it somehow. We've simply got to get our fiscal house in order. And I think if we're going to do that, the first place we've got to look for offsets is at the Department of Defense itself. We asked in a hearing that Senator Ayotte and Senator Shaheen called on Tuesday of this week, we asked of General Dempsey, Senator Manchin did, for a list of programs or expenditures that the department does not want to spend money on that have been mandated by Congress. We thought we would have that list by today. I understand now we're not going to get it till next week, but I think for certain one item that's going to be on that list, General Odierno, is the purchase of Abram tanks that you have been somewhat vocal on, that Congress keeps demanding that you buy, that you don't need. My understanding is that you were requesting a delay or a halt in production until 2017. And that the cost of that was going to be, the savings was going to be somewhere between $436 and $3 billion over 3 years. I don't know what the exact number is, but either one of those is pretty significant. Now, is that still the case, that you'd prefer to spend that money somewhere else?
It is. We have the most modernized tank fleet we've ever had right now. It is in great shape. And in fact, we're reducing our force structure, so we're going to need less tanks, but yet we're purchasing more tanks that we don't need. And so the savings could be used in many different areas of our modernization programs that we need, for example, aviation.
Okay, well, as we go into the authorization bill, rest assured that it's issues like that that are going to be addressed. And as we talk about sequestration, I know that a lot of these programs have taken years to develop and produce. So these programs that I'm going to mention weren't necessarily created or authorized on the watch of the four of you, but they are significant. General Welch, I understand there are 12 brand new C-27J Spartans that were rolled right off the assembly line and immediately mothballed. Since 2007, DOD has spent $567 million on 21 of these airplanes, but only 16 of them have been delivered, and a majority of those are sitting in storage somewhere. Also, there were 20 C-27As that cost the taxpayer $596 million, and they sit unused and are sitting in Afghanistan and slated to be destroyed, although there may be some movement to try to send those to another agency or entity. But the maintenance contract on those airplanes, I understand, was canceled in March of this year, and therefore they're unusable. General Odierno, the Army spent $297 million to develop the Long Endurance Multi-Intelligence Vehicle, which is a blimp-like aircraft that would hover over the battlefield, that was canceled after one test flight and sold back to the contractor for $301,000. The Army and the Marine Corps are moving ahead, as I understand it, to purchase 55,000 trucks known as the Joint Light Tactical Vehicle to replace your current fleet of Humvees, which is probably understandable, but it's also my understanding that the committed cost of these per vehicle was $250,000, and now it's gone to something like $400,000 per vehicle, not unlike what Senator McCain alluded to earlier. General Welch, also a recent audit by the DOD Inspector General found that a contractor had overcharged DLA for spare aircraft parts, that there was one part, an aluminum bearing sleeve that should have cost $10, that DLA paid $2,286 per item, and it resulted in a $10 million overcharge. Now, again, as I say, those are items that weren't necessarily created on your watch, but you're in the process right now of looking forward with respect to weapon systems, and I just hope you'll keep that in mind. There's one other area that I just want to mention as we look for savings, and that's in the area of medical research. Now, I'm a beneficiary of the research that's been done in this country on prostate cancer, and I'm very thankful for that. They do a great job at NIH on prostate cancer research and every other kind of cancer research. But what I don't understand is why the Army, or excuse me, why the military is spending $80 million a year on prostate cancer research, while we're spending $25 million a year on ovarian cancer research and $150 million on breast cancer research. We're also doing lung cancer research. Now, if there are particular needs that the military has regarding military research, and there are some because of particularly the casualties that we've suffered recently, I can understand it, but these are types of research that simply have no place, in my opinion, at DOD. They ought to be done at NIH. I understand further that there is not real coordination between the research done, medical research done at NIH and what is done at DOD. So, Mr. Chairman, that's not an item that these gentlemen have a lot of control over, but it's certainly an item that we need to look at, and the money would be better spent as a replacement for sequestration. My good friend, a good friend to a lot of us, Senator Ted Stevens, was one of the ones who first asked for prostate cancer research money go to DOD. Several years later, he announced on the floor of the Senate that he had made a mistake. He should never have done that, and that money ought to be spent on research, but it ought to be spent at NIH and not at the Department of Defense. So as we go forward, gentlemen, with the Defense Authorization Bill in the next couple of weeks, I look forward to seeing that list that General Dempsey gets to us with respect to items that come out of each of your budgets that hopefully we can have the spine to stand up and say, irrespective of our parochial interests, we got to look after our men and women, and they need this money to be spent in other areas rather than in areas where the military themselves say we don't need to spend it. Thank you very much.